has been a consistent pattern of denigrating religion over the last few decades. And it's reaching a peak at this point. In many parts of the world, as you know, Christians are being slaughtered.
Best-selling author and famed neurosurgeon Ben Carson is a man of many beliefs and many conclusions. The Presidential Medal of Freedom Award recipient has traveled the world many times over, and to his dismay, one of the things he sees all too often is the persecution and violence perpetrated against Christians, a movement that, sorry to say, only seems to be increasing in so many countries. This week, a Sudanese Christian woman who had been sentenced to die for renouncing her faith was released from prison, only to be rearrested today as she was trying to leave the African nation. Miriam Ibrahim, her American husband, and their 3 children were stopped at the airport, detained, and interrogated. Where she and her family are at this moment is unknown. She refused to renounce her Christianity as demanded by the strict religious law of the country, convicted and sentenced to suffer 100 lashes and then be hanged. In our exclusive interview with Dr. Carson, we spoke about this growing persecution of Christians and why it's a topic that should be on the lips of everyone, not just Americans.
In your book, you discuss Judeo-Christian values numbers of times, and also quoting a number of Bible passages as well. It would seem that the secularists in this country, to some people, are winning in their battle against Judeo-Christian values, which then leads a lot of people to wonder, is there indeed a war on Christianity in this country?
Well, I would advise viewers to get a book called The Naked Communist, written in 1958, a long time ago, that lays out the whole secular progressive agenda, a large part of which is to kick our Judeo-Christian values to the side. They said 2 of the very strongest pillars of America, family values and their Judeo-Christian faith. If we can alter those 2 pillars significantly, then we can basically bring America into subjection.
Don't they go together when you really think about it? Family values, Judeo-Christian values, they have to.
They're very compatible with each other. There's no question about it. But I think you probably started noticing some decades ago, particularly in Hollywood, the denigration of the role of fathers. And the father is usually sort of the goofball, and mom has to come to the rescue. And believe me, I have nothing against moms. My mother was the greatest. But, family, a well-working, functioning family where everybody plays their part is an incredibly good environment in which to bring up a child. And what we have today are those who say, well, there is no such thing as the ideal family. Every family situation is of equal value. And, this whole traditional family thing, this is what people who are bigots and religious fanatics talk about. That's not anything that is really worth pursuing. This is a Judeo-Christian nation. It's interesting that a lot of people who like to rewrite history say that our founders didn't really have. They believe that there was a God who set things in motion, but doesn't involve himself in anything that's going on. All you have to do is go back and read a lot of the quotations from our founders, and you'll see that that can't possibly be true. That's why in our previous book, America the Beautiful, we included so many quotations from the founders to debunk that whole argument that they were deist. But going back to the neo-Marxists and their plan for bringing America into alignment with the rest of the world, they said one of the key pillars of our strength was our Judeo-Christian faith. And we would have to minimize that in order to bring America into alignment. And there has been a consistent pattern of denigrating religion over the last few decades. And it's reaching a peak at this point. In many parts of the world, as you know, Christians are being slaughtered. What's interesting to me is that we're not speaking up for them. Our government is not going out and speaking up for them or demanding their release. Now, I would tell you, if I were in the Oval Office, anybody who persecuted one of my citizens because of their religion, believe me, they would be paying a big price. They would think long and hard before they did it again.
Why do you think that is? Why is it that the administration and the government doesn't stand up and take that stance?
Well, obviously it's not a priority for them. Obviously it's not something that's important to them. You hear that blasted day and night. If it's not important, shuffle it to the back page. Shuffle it to the back page. And you know, one of the other big problems for us is, you know, our media, for the most part, has lost its integrity. And you know, a media with integrity is a huge part of a free nation.
You've talked about the fact that President Obama did not appreciate your comments at the prayer breakfast. And then perhaps the IRS got involved, and perhaps the president himself. An idea, if you will, as to what shaped that thinking and why you think he came after you.
Well, Well, you know, I don't have any proof that he was involved. I will say that I got multiple warnings from all kind of people that I was going to get audited. And I've never been audited before, and nothing had changed. You know, none of my real estate holdings had changed. Nothing had changed, except that I gave the speech. So a few months later, of course, they, as anticipated, they did come and they said, we want to look into, after thoroughly investigating that, not finding anything, they said, well, we need to expand this to a full audit of everything. Because my tax return is about that thick. Because, you know, I have a lot of things going on. I do a lot of public speaking. You have to do a tax return for each state. Mm-hmm. So they went anything. And they said, well, let's expand it to another year. After a few months, they just went away. But, you know, it's kind of sad. Could it have been a coincidence? I guess it could have been. But, you know, I've talked to a lot of other people who've had the same coincidence. I just wonder. And, you know, now you look at a situation where, you know, they've lost Lois Lerner's emails. Now, just how does that happen?
Dog ate my homework.
Particularly the ones related to this. It's not really a scandal because there's not a smidgen of evidence that there's anything wrong. You know, I mean, this stuff. You know, I mean, this stuff strains credulity. I mean, you have to really want to believe that,
As I'm reading through the book, 3 letters really caught my attention. And I'll bet you probably know which ones they are. PCP, politically correct police. It would seem to me that this is one of the most dangerous things that we have here in America, is this adherence to being politically correct.
Yes.
And this
It does. You know, the majority of people in America, unfortunately, have been beaten down. And actually find themselves afraid. I talk to people all the time. I say, why don't you speak up? Well, you know, I could lose my job. Somebody could call me a name. You know, I could get an IRS audit. You know, people are afraid to donate money because, you know, they're going to be targeted. This is America? How did this happen? And you look at the places that are supposed to be the bastions of intellectual exploration, are universities. What's going on there? You know, you have graduation speakers being, you know, canceled or pressured to step out because they may not agree with the administration or with some radical group of students. And we're tolerating this. Not only are we tolerating it, our universities are saying to our students, if somebody doesn't agree with you, you shouldn't hear them, but no one else should hear them either. If they have a business, you should destroy it. If they have a reputation, you should tarnish it. This is pre-fascist thought. I don't know if anybody doing. This is not America. And I think when I was growing up, when I was a teenager, liberals of that time would have been horrified.
Brilliant man to listen to. Now, you can get a copy of Dr. Carson's New York Times #1 best-selling book, One Nation, What we can all do to save America's future at bookstores everywhere, or go to newsmax.com/Ben to get your free copy. Now, there is certainly a whole lot more to learn. Talk to him about the flood of illegal immigrants coming over the border, and we'll hear the doctor's thoughts on the importance of education. When you read the book and when you listen to him speak, you will understand that more than anybody else, Dr. Carson believes in education. He came from that. He was taught it by his mother. He believes in it, and he believes that that is one of the problems we have today in America, that quite frankly, whether it's kids or adults, they're not educated, and they don't try to educate themselves. Right here on Midpoint. Don't forget, this is the show that questions everything.